What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Flow Show. Speaking of germs, Steve Strass is dealing with some fungus in his walls. How you doing over there, buddy?
Water rot. Big
Water
problem.
rot,
Yeah.
fungus. What's the difference?
Gross, man. So it's a big construction zone over here for me today. I'm glad that I'm even able to do this video today.
Me too. So if people hear some banging in the background, some weird, strange noises, don't be alarmed. It's just the construction crew tearing apart Steve's house. The whole back wall is off, right?
It's pretty cool. I've been watching them kind of work on it all day. It's actually pretty cool.
I hope you
I
guys don't
could
get any.
just yeah, I don't know anything about these things, so I could just like sit and watch, and I find it so fascinating, like what they're doing, the way they're insulating the windows and all this jazz. Yeah, enjoying it.
I just hope you don't get any windy rain today. That while the wall is down, that could be messy.
I was just saying that to Rose. I'm like, I hope they can finish this today because what happens if they don't?
I know those skies can change quickly down there in South Florida.
And we had a scorpion in the house the other day. So just big construction zone, but we're working through it. And it's been a fast market. So that's making things, all the more fun for me this week. You said you wanted to pull up a chart of the VIX and start there. Are these new multi-month lows kind of catching your attention right now?
Yeah, we got a 13 handle on the VIX. As I'm talking about it, it's making new intraday lows and is making the lowest prints on the VIX since early or mid July.
Yes.
So, not that we need to make a big deal out of that, but it is notable, if for no other reason, to me, Straza, it tells me that the fear premium, the uncertainty premium is coming out of the market. And that's neither good nor bad, but what it potentially says is that, great, now stocks are going to start trading on their independent, on their independent technicals, on their independent fundamentals. Like, it's going to be their own stories on why they're trading, not because everything's going up or everything's going down, right? It's and I hate to use the phrase stock pickers market. It's so overused,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, this is kind of the market when a VIX is making lows, that becomes the market that we're in, right?
Yep. And calls are cheaper typically. Which
Typically, yeah.
we also like also. I couldn't help when I pulled up the chart, Sean. We've been doing this like all year and saying, oh, that's probably not a top. So I started looking at the VIX and thinking that. And then I look back. You said the VIX hasn't been this low since, I don't know, July, which is right before. I think you actually coined the term the yen yo-yo.
The yen yo-yo.
Right here in the middle of the chart, right? So last time VIX was down here, great. All was calm and well until, the Bank of Japan almost exploded and the VIX made like I think its biggest intraday or morning move in history. So
Now, before we lead the witness here, Straza, let's be clear. One thing we talk about all the time with volatility is that volatility tends to mean revert, right?
Yep.
But that is more prevalent on the upside coming back down. It's not necessarily just because VIX is low does not mean that we are ripe for a spike. That's not what that means.
Great point.
But what it does mean is that when VIX is low, there's potentially more upside to be positioned long volatility, because how much lower can volatility really go here, right? So, I get a little twitchy when I hear people say, "Oh, VIX is low; it's going to mean revert higher." No, that's not how mean reversion works with VIX with volatility. It's the other way. When VIX is at a 65, which is where it got to in August briefly, that's when you're thinking, okay, the next move is probably a mean reversion lower. Of course, it could always go a lot higher than you think. And I'm sure there were a lot of people when VIX was at 30 that were saying, oh, it can't go much higher than here. And then it doubled in their face.
Sean, it's an important distinction to make. And frankly, you could just see it on the chart, right? In other words, when we spike higher on the VIX, it comes right back in almost every time, right? But then what we do get on the lower ends of the range are these prolonged periods, right? Where the VIX is just super low. You have these low volatility regimes. And these can be some of the best times for stock traders. So it looks like we're heading back to something like that. Now, just as we're kicking off the Q4 rally, I was going to wear my Santa hat.
Ooh, too early, too early. I know it's December, but it's too early.
Big Santa Claus rally is coming. And this is more supporting evidence for that story, I think. So
No, I definitely agree. I feel like this year's Santa Claus rally is something we need to really pay attention to because it could be a big one. It could be.
the Decembers of the last 2 years, 2023 and 2022, have been spectacular, and I think heading back to the same thing.
I mean,
Um,
these two things are not related, but the fact that we had a really good day on Friday this past week, that the half day that's usually it's a holiday for most people, I
mhm.
don't know. That just seems to tell me that I don't know, when the markets get quiet around the holidays, it's just going to be bullish because that's the underlying theme.
Dude, I open up my crypto app like every weekend, and these things are up 50, 60, 70% in 24-hour period. So like
I've been looking at
we're
that
back.
Ripple. That's crazy.
Ripple's up like 400% past couple weeks. So we're back into that kind of environment, right? So, and there are corollaries in the stock market for what we're talking about with crypto. All that does is speak to risk appetite, right? So for me, when I see, oh, the altcoins are mooning again, every weekend or whenever we go to sleep at night, I think speculative growth. I think IPO stocks, right? I think the longest duration kind of growth stock stories. I think solar energy. I think biotechs. So I feel like you're already pretty long the speculative tech theme. Do you want to go somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, I'm already riding this arc that you got up there right now.
It's
That
so
that's
good.
working well.
So good. And here's the thing. Finally, with ARC, we're getting major confirmation from all the ARC components, right? So let's just look at a couple that stand out. Square, it's the same pattern, right? Just clean, fresh trend reversal. Here's, I don't know, Affirm. You know the Roblox? You ever heard of Roblox, like the video game stuff?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Look at this one. So they're just all really clean trend reversals. And then on the other side of that coin is mega cap tech, right? The large cap growth trade. And that is also breaking out in a big way. Here's the Vanguard Mega Cap Growth Fund, new all-time highs. And have you seen the mags? We were talking about the mags on Spaces today. Look at this. Mag 7 index. This is the 7 largest stocks. Nvidia, Apple, and friends, tight coil, popping higher. So I think we can like run it back to the large cap growth stocks. Now that everybody's focused on the speculative growth, small cap tech trade, I think we can go right back to the Mag 7 and there's stuff there. For example, look at semiconductors on a relative basis. This is that same pattern. There's no way semiconductors are going to roll over here, give up their leadership right in the middle of a bull market, just as things are picking up steam. I think we could lean into semiconductors, something like Lam Research against the prior cycle highs. How clean this is. Secular leader, huge drawdown. It's been a rough year. Does it get much cleaner than that?
Well, I want to back you up a little bit when you're talking about the big caps. That's not a theme I had considered, but I like what you were saying there. And it's kind
We're
of
going to
like,
chase them, I think.
is it kind of forgotten in a way? I mean, Apple to me, I mean, maybe we missed it by a few bucks, but I feel like Apple is a pretty clean breakout we could get into. Google has some catching up to do.
Even Meta
May,
looks great.
I mean, maybe Google is a play. Maybe Google's a little bit of a value play here. I don't know.
I love Google. Google's probably my favorite from a longer term perspective.
I mean,
Do you not like Nvidia?
Amazon's a little up and down there. But I don't know. I feel like the Apple chart is the one that speaks to me here right now.
I love
Volatility's
it.
coming
But
quite a bit.
like you said, ideally, we probably entered this trade 2 days ago.
Yeah.
But if you go out far enough, it should be an immaterial difference.
You know what maybe we do, and we don't do a whole lot of this, Straza, but maybe this Apple is a play where we can be a little patient and we systematically buy into this in tranches, right? In
Love
pieces.
that.
Like put a bid in for some calls right here and then put a bid in for, maybe, a little bit lower, good till canceled, and maybe even a little bit lower. So maybe buying 3 or 4 pieces,
Yeah.
try to get, a good average price. And if we only get one of them, well, that means it's working and great. We took no heat on the trade.
Yeah.
Because with volatility low in Apple right now, let me just, just for argument's sake, let's pull up, like, man, let's just be crazy. Let's be crazy, Straza. Let's go a year out. Let's
Yeah.
look at December of next year. All right. The 25 delta calls would be the 300 strike in Apple. I like that. Nice round number. Perfect. Right. We could buy those calls. I mean, right now, if I were to pay the offer, I could buy them for 740. Right. Well,
Yep.
maybe I buy one piece here and then leave another order in to buy some more. Maybe it's $7, and then maybe another order to buy some at 650, right? And then that rounds out my whole position. And if they trade down to $5, I just blow out of it and just take my loss.
I like it, Sean. So we would pay about $700 to get into this. We need 300 to be in the money. That's about a 25% move over the course of a year. To put that in perspective, let's say just Q4 of last year for Apple, it's rally off of the Q4. Actually, let's measure it from the breakout level. Last year, when Apple broke out of a similar consolidation, went on to rally about 20%. We get a 20% rally here right out of the gates. We could be out of these a lot sooner than we think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe
It is
this
a
is one
big
of the.
move, though, Sean. It's kind of a big move for what, three? Where are we at now, Big Daddy? $3.7 trillion stock. All right. I don't know. I don't hate it. So we're
You
making the
think
call
300's too
that
far away for 1 year?
it listen, every time I play this game and I'm like, oh, that means Apple's going to be basically closing in on 5 trillion this time next year if we're right on this trade. Whenever we start talking this way, it always happens and then some. Um, but it does sound a little does sound like a little bit much to me.
Well, listen, I don't disagree with you. But sometimes the option market is funny like that, where like it's somebody knows something, right? And if they're pricing that at a 25 delta,
Yep.
basically you're saying there's a 1 in 4 chance that Apple gets to 300 by next December.
It probably happens.
I mean, does somebody know something?
No, I
Uh,
like it. Listen, I like it. It does seem a little bit aggressive, but I think Apple, the other Mag 7s, these are the kinds of stocks we want to be adding exposure to right now.
And look, I hate putting on my fundamental hat because it doesn't fit right, but Apple hasn't really fully rolled out this whole Apple Intelligence thing, right? They've been kind of sleeping on it. They're not making a big deal out of it.
Yep.
But do you think over the next year, there's going to be some headlines about some really cool shit coming out from Apple that could, I don't know, get the AI crowd excited?
100%. And I also think it's almost just common sense to anticipate that Apple is going to be the first to really change people's lives with AI, right? Or change their day-to-day experience, right? And get everyone using AI. Because if they can bring it to the iPhone in a big way, I think that could be a huge hit for them. And I'm with you, Sean. I'm with you.
All
I
right.
like it.
So I like it too.
Fresh
I
break.
just sold myself on it right there with that little idea. So here's my play. I'm going to buy some today, but I'm only going to buy a third of my position.
Okay.
And I'm going to leave good till cancel orders to buy at lower prices over the next, couple of months. Hopefully I get them. With the game plan of if these calls trade down to say $5, then I'm going to blow out of it and just take my loss. It'll be a small loss, no big deal.
All right.
But if this thing rips, I mean, hopefully I get the whole position on before it rips. But even if I don't get the whole position on, that's a good thing, right? That means I didn't take any heat in what I've got. And risk adjusted, my returns are fantastic. Maybe I didn't get the full position I wanted, but
Yeah.
that's a first class problem.
I just want to say I'm a huge fan of scaling. I think we should both do more of it. I do it in my trading plenty, but I don't write about it, right? Because that's kind of a pain in the ass.
No, agreed. And shout out to our podcast, the Off the Charts podcast. A
Steven.
few weeks ago, we had Stephen Place on, a fellow
Oh,
options
great.
trader, and he talked a lot about scaling. And he got me thinking that, yeah, man, I don't do enough of that either. So,
Dude,
maybe this is a good opportunity for us to exercise that muscle.
totally agree. All right, let's do it. So Apple, you're buying the first one here, what, like 750 today? 730?
Yeah, I mean, if I hit the offer right now, I could pay him 740 for it.
And then you said second tranche at five.
No, no, 5 is my out. That's where I exit.
Five, you're out. Then where are you adding? You're adding on strength where?
I'm not adding on strength. I'm going to buy on weakness, right?
Okay.
I'm going to buy my first thing. Let's say I bought it, hit the button right now. I'd buy it at 740. Maybe I'd buy my next leg at say 675, and then maybe the next one at 6.
Yep.
And then if it goes all the way down to 5, I'm out. And it won't
Now,
be that big of a loss. It'll be fine.
why not use an invalidation of the consolidation pattern breakout?
Great idea. What level there do you think would turn you off to this trade? Like somewhere below 230, 235?
Yeah, so we have a pretty clean level at like 237, but let's let it dance a bit. Come down to this other shelf here, because that's only like 2.25%.
Yeah.
So 3.5% lower, 233, 233, you're back in that box, right? And there's probably some opportunity
Now, I'd be willing to bet that if Apple got to that level, that these calls would
again.
probably be trading around 5, which was my stop anyway. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think we're on the same page. But I like that. We should definitely have a chart-based stop on this as well. 233 seems to make sense for me. Yeah, good call. Good call. And you know what? Why not go full? Let's go full scaling here. We're going to scale in. And maybe
Scale
we
out.
start scaling out when we're at a double, right? Maybe,
I like
sell
that.
one of them at a double, maybe
Yeah.
sell another one if it goes up a couple more bucks, and then
Yeah.
ride that last one. What do you think about that?
No, I love that. I also think that you can use, the price chart to help you scale out as well. So
Yeah.
definitely all sell the double, I think is a great rule. Rule number one. Sometimes, Sean, when I'm in a position that's up big and it gets into some sort of coil or it starts to look like a short-term top or distribution, I draw a clean line at a pivot low and I say if we're below there, then I'm going to scale out of maybe another quarter of the position. Not even close the whole thing, right? But you can just pick spots along the way. So it's hard to talk about here because we don't know what the chart looks like, right? But say we blast out of this base up towards this 161.8% Fibonacci. Sorry, Gene, just show my chart. It's a little bit sloppy. And then say we get something like, this here, where we're just kind of chopping around and we're in some sort of, consolidation pattern. Then I would say, okay, just, draw a little pivot support line and say, okay, 253 below there, we're out. So I think as the trade progresses, then you can get some sort of signposts or lines in the sand for how to manage out of the remaining.
No, that's great. And that gives me an opportunity to plug one more thing. We already plugged the Off the Charts podcast. I'm also going to plug the All Star Option subscription because what's going to happen here is we're going to put this trade on. We're going to put out a detailed trade plan, but it's going to require updates along the way, right? Because of everything that Steve just said. We're going to, we may have some new stops that we're going to have to adjust. We may take some profits along the way. So one of the nice things is that if you're in this trade with us, we'll keep you updated in the chat room. We'll keep you updated on the blog, all that stuff, everything you need to know on the weekly options jam sessions. We'll cover it there as well. So, you're not going to be flying blind on this one if you take this trade or something similar. And that's the beauty of what we do. So, hey, great job. We came up with a great trade here. And I actually really like this idea of getting into big caps. I already have one big cap on that's kind of taken its time, which has been frustrating, and that's Microsoft. But I feel like Microsoft is just starting to wake up. So I'm starting to feel good about it.
And
Um,
and, and if this trade starts to pick up steam, Sean, we saw this the last 2 years. That momentum will get more momentum, right? Because they will chase these stocks just like they always do into year end. Window dressing is real, and I think you could see some big moves here. Also, just look at my screen here. Apple's been sideways, no progress since July, June.
right.
Oh, I think
I
they're
mean,
ready.
those two big things you just said right there should have been said earlier because this just makes it even more bullish. The more or less sideways action for a year in Apple, that's, great for this breakout. And also, I hadn't even considered Straza, like year-end window dressing. This is a classic stock that portfolio managers are going to buy, especially if it's making yearly highs into the end of the year. They're all going to buy it. They have to.
That's what it is. The more it
Didn't even think of that.
rallies, the more it rallies into year end, the more it rallies into year end because then everybody has to pour into it. Imagine sending your clients a statement in January not being an Apple. Come on, in the middle of a bull market, you got to.
There's only one portfolio manager that can do that, and his name is Warren Buffett.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, he's going to provide the liquidity to the rest of them as usual.
All right, this has been great. This has been the Flow Show. That's Steve Straza. I'm Sean McLaughlin. Thanks for tuning in. We'll do it again next week. Until then, trade it well. We'll see you on the morning show tomorrow morning. Take care, everybody.
Later.